Hello again everyone, my name's Derailious and welcome back to Skyblock Next, the only show that goes over every future Skyblock update, both the planned, the currently on alpha, pretty much everything for the foreseeable future. Before we begin though, I just want to say please make sure to like and subscribe down below as it really helps out the channel a lot. Use code RAIL on the Hypixel store for 5% off your order. Without any further ado though, let's get started. Starting off with a pretty major update that is currently on the Alpha Network right now, we have the Diana V2 event as well as the Kuudra Crosis. This includes a bunch of new mobs to be included in the mythological ritual, the ability to upgrade your ancestral spade to get you 2 new variants, new items, new pet items, the ability to upgrade your current pet items with the Hephaestus Anvil, as well as a new stat called Tracking, which gives you a higher chance to get elusive mobs. They've also increased the length of burrows when you have certain pieces of gear on. They've added 2 new armor sets, the Challenger armor and the Mythos armor set, and they've done a bunch of quality of life improvements to the mythological ritual, including increasing the amount of Inquisitors you'll get, as well as boosting the drop rate of Chimera. In terms of the Kuudra Crosis, there's quite a few things here. The new NPC is named Vesuvius, and you can find them in the Crimson Isle. And if you go to the Dungeon Hub, you can actually find Kuudra in the Dungeon Hub. They've had to remove the Sand Dungeon for this, so it seems like that's never going to happen. But regardless, it is pretty interesting to see the size and scope of this update on the Alpha Network. On top of that, Crosis actually handles Kuudra requests within the Dungeon Hub. So now if you want to handle anything related to picking up gear or loot from either of the 2 things that will be in the Dungeon Hub, you can go directly to Crosis. A major update that's likely to release relatively soon. The greenhouse is going to be an upcoming garden update, which will include a bunch of other features, notably an overhaul to farming tools, a bunch of new visitors, and even custom crops, as well as a reduction in crop and visitor milestones by a very significant margin. The greenhouse specifically is a new plot that you can place on your garden that allows you to do a bit more passive farming. Basically, you'll be able to plant, water, and grow crops over multiple real-life days or hours, whether you're online or offline. It's basically meant to be a slower, more repeatable way of actually interacting with the garden. You unlock it at level 7 through the Carpenter, and it's basically going to take you through a mini quest line. As well, you'll have to plant and water your crops, and when you place crops in certain orientations, they will have effects which boost your production, give you more farming wisdom, and various other things as well. On top of that, you also have the opportunity to get mutated crops, which give you even wackier effects. The goal is kind of like a cookie clicker iteration of the garden, where you're basically just creating and mutating crops to get the biggest buffs possible. We've yet to see anything specific about this update on the Alpha Network, but the admins do claim that it will drop later this year. This is also, by the way, a part 1 to garden updates. There is a second part planned in the future, and after that, the admins are taking a break from the garden. Next up, we have the Lotus Atoll and Guardian Slayer, which I'm kind of going to combine here. Both of these are going to be 1.21 fishing-related islands, going along the same systems as the Backwater Bayou. Lotus Atoll will include trophy frogs, and seems to include some mechanics which will eventually lead into Guardian Slayer, which is the game's next Slayer. We don't know specifically about when these pieces of content are supposed to release. Initially, it seemed like the goal was to get Guardian Slayer out by the end of 2025, but that might have been pushed into 2026 with the recent developments related to combat content and what the team wants to do. I do also imagine that this is going to be a 1.21 piece of content, because of the talk of new combat features that are required for Guardian Slayer to work. Don't be that surprised if we see stuff like tridents make an appearance here, as well as a bunch of new mobs and mechanics related to the latest versions of Minecraft and swimming. The Great Glacite Lake was announced in the 2024 recap, and we haven't heard too much about it since. It's supposed to include a bunch of features related to fishing and the Glacite tunnels. As well, it will include a Great Glacite Lake with an offering system, in which players can throw offerings into the lake, usually in the form of gemstones, and their next Glacite mineshaft will be more likely to be of that gemstone type. There will be new Glacite mineshafts, some of which will contain content outside of mining. Glacite sea creatures will be introduced, ranging from common to mythic, and the Great Glacite Lake will be the means through which you obtain your next super rare piece of equipment following on from the Pendant of Devon. We haven't heard much of anything about this in a long while. I wouldn't be that shocked if this update has greatly changed due to the release of the Bayou and the new talk of stuff like Lotus Atoll and Guardian Slayer. I hope they eventually do end up looking at this update. I think it would be pretty exciting to get a fishing and mining combo update, but I would love to hear what you guys think about the Great Glacite Lake down below. Year of the Witch was announced alongside the Foraging update, and was stated to be the third event of its type focused around alchemy. As part of the Year of the Witch event, players would need to seek out particular mobs, killing them to gather ingredients. These ingredients can be used to gain permanent buffs, or as currency in the Year of the Witch shop. Also, they will be adding a seal pet alongside this update. We haven't heard much about the Year of the Witch since, but I imagine it's going to be pretty alchemy focused, adding some ways to level the skill, and once again, some buffs for the players. Hoppity V4 may be cancelled by now, but it will be important to note for this video. Hoppity V4 was supposed to include a Chocolate Factory RNG meter, which would allow you to get specific eggs that you were missing. We sort of got this in the form of the pity system. It would have included a new Rabbit Faction Tower, which would let you set a faction to find rare eggs that could be traded with other players. There would also be a new Unique Tower, which would allow you to get unique rabbits that would remain in your possession as long as you paid enough coins to keep them. To be honest, I didn't feel like this update was ever going to make a lot of sense with how the players perceived Hoppity, and especially since we've already gotten a pity system for Hoppity, I don't know if Hoppity V4 is going to be on the table, so this will be the last video where this specific update is brought up. The second Foraging Island is planned for sometime next year, and it will be called the Taurus Canyon. The pre-production for this update has apparently already begun, and will receive more updates on the project as it moves closer to release. But the TLDR is there's going to be another contest, there's going to be more trees for you to chop down, we'll be leveling up in terms of sweep, and we'll probably get a better axe. Nothing too crazy in that regard. Lunar Rise is a lot more out there. We don't know when this update is going to come out. In my view, I wouldn't be that shocked if it was late 2026, early 2027. Same ideas though, more trees, more shards, more attributes, more hunting, just expanding on the update even further, but maybe in a more endgame manner. The Breach was first officially brought up in the 2024 recap, and it is supposed to be taking us to a very special place in time through the top of the mountaintop. We don't know really anything about this update. My idea is that it's going to be a story-based update, but with a lot of combat features. Would not be that shocked at all if this was also in 1.21. The admins have implied as much in other information where they talk about all future major updates being in 1.21, so don't be that surprised if the latest version is utilized. We'll probably get a lot of answers as to what happened thousands of years ago in the game's lore with regard to the dragons, how they came around, how the creatures in the catacombs came around. Pretty much everything related to that will likely be explained within this update. Hopefully it includes some fun stuff in terms of combat content as well, but for now, we're just going to have to wait and see. In 2026, the admins have announced a focus on new combat content as well as more latest version features. Keep in mind, all major content updates for 2026 are going to be latest version only, so you won't be able to stick around on 1.8 and continue to play new content. Personally, I imagine this is going to be a lot of new mechanics related to combat, likely including stuff like the mace and the trident and the crossbow in the game's development and features. Really excited to see it. Hopefully we also get some combat balancing as well. This will likely also include updates like Guardian Slayer as part of the 2026 cadence. I am not certain at all that Guardian Slayer will release this year. Feels like there's not a lot of time left in the year for what the admins have planned, so I wouldn't be that shocked if this got pushed out to the next year. Stranded is also getting one last hurrah. This is the final update for the Stranded game mode. It's going to enable all fortunes on Stranded. The mosquito pet will be craftable on Stranded. There will be a bunch of NPCs that will be unlocked to be placed on your island with no actual requirements, or at least very little requirements. There will be changes to fishing treasure tables. The Treecapitator will be usable on Stranded. The Melody's Harp will be fixed, and a bunch of other changes will be made to just make the Stranded game mode a little bit better before they eventually disable it entirely. It's good to see that Stranded will be getting one last update, because this game mode has needed love for a very long time, and hopefully it will be just a little bit playable after its final update. Wrapping up here with a bit of a lightning round for some smaller updates that were talked about over the past year. The first is actually related to Crimson armor, as well as pretty much every other Kuudra set of armor having its cost reduced. This would likely come alongside a bunch of Crimson Isle rebalancing. I don't know what else this would include beyond just maybe changing some small things about Kuudra, making the armor sets a lot cheaper in terms of Crimson Essence, but aside from that, that is what is planned for the Crimson Isle. There's also a texture pack as well as a bunch of models for different NPCs and mobs planned for the game. We don't really know specifically when this update will come out, but we have seen quite a few teasers related to it. On top of all of this, there is also a third update planned, the equipment wardrobe. I know it's very exciting. People have talked about the idea of equipment wardrobe for a very long time. This one is probably not as confirmed as many of the other things on the list, but apparently it is in their backlog. So maybe with the use of 1.21 and modern version features, we will see an equipment wardrobe added to the game. Wrapping up here, the Skyblock team has announced a lot over the past year, and we've gotten through a lot of the list from the beginning of the year. Now it's really the time to see many of these major updates come to fruition. Hopefully over the next 6 months we see a lot of improvement in the game, a bunch of new content, 1.21 features, and we can really see the game start pushing towards an eventual 1.0 release, if that's even still on the table. Would love to hear what you guys think about this video down below. Let me know your thoughts on all of these updates. I'll have my sources linked down below as well if you want to check them out. And that's really about it for me. Make sure to like and subscribe, use code RAIL in the Hypixel store for 5% off your order, and look to the future, fellas. I'll see you then.